Hello, hello, and welcome back to Influential Dental, where we are interviewing some of the most influential people in the dental industry. And I'm here today joined by my co-host, Michael Keeter. I am Julieanne O'Connor, and I'm an influence coach for high achievers, amongst other things, which I won't get into, but I'm so jazzed and excited about our guest today, who is somebody that I've known for a moment. But before we tell you about him, I want to introduce my co-host, and then we will bring on our very, very special guest, which is going to be such a treat for the dental industry today.
Yeah, thank you, Julieanne and Michael Keeter, and great to be on the show today with Zach Lund, which I got to meet earlier before we went on air, and I'm very excited about this conversation as well for a lot of different reasons. And you may want to stay for the entirety of the program because I think we're going to go a little overtime with this. But Michael Keeter in the dental industry for about 18 years now, and excited as we keep rolling with Influential Dental. And again, this is about the most influential people in the dental industry, their stories, and why is important to know your place when it comes to your influence on others, and why it's important to be an influential person in your day-to-day life. So again, very great to be here, and thank you, Julieanne and Zach, for being here.
All right, so let's talk about Zach here for a second. Okay, so I could go on and on with, oh my gosh, how much you've been in the media. You are, man, I'm just so thrilled to have you. You are an Olympic athlete, and woo, yeah, we're like, I feel like I'm in, it's star-studded today. And you and I have gotten to know each other really, really well, which is just such a gift. And in fact, you are also a coach as well, and that's also exciting. But what I'd love to deep dive into today is a little bit about your journey, because you have an incredible story about how you became an Olympic athlete, how you were number one in the world in your sport, and just some of the challenges that you've overcome, because we know that in the dental space, there are a lot of challenges, and we're seeing a lot of issues that come up in the mental health arena for people in this space, and so many different things. And I know you've been faced with a bit of all of that based on just the things you've overcome. But will you start by giving an introduction of who you are and just a little bit of your background? And then we'll just turn this into a casual conversation, but I'm going to have a lot of questions. I know Mike is going to be thrilled to ask you lots of questions today too.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to meet you, Mike, and Julieanne. As always, you're amazing. You've been a big influence in my life. So thank you so much for everything you do for me as my coach. And a little bit about me. I'm an Olympic athlete. I did the sport of skeleton. For those of you who don't know what the sport of skeleton is, some people don't. It's like bobsled or luge, but it's where you head first down the track. Extreme sport. A lot of people thought I was crazy for doing it, but
you are. We still think that.
I loved the chaos. I loved the challenge of it. And in that sport, you go down an icy chute about a mile long, gets up to speeds of 90 miles per hour, up to 5 G forces. I have a fused neck, a lot of concussions from it. But man, was it fun. And it was being in that environment that really made me feel alive. I'm a proud father of 3 daughters, 3 amazing daughters. I live in Oregon, and where I'm a good person.
Yeah, go Ducks.
Mike says that because for those of you who don't know it, he played for the Oregon Ducks.
Which is awesome.
It does. I lived in Oregon most of my life. So yes, I'm very glad to hear that you're in Oregon, Zach, and look forward to sharing some stories about that beautiful state. So sorry, this isn't about me. It's about
Zach.
Mike, I hate to break it to you, but being from Utah, I'm a Utah Utes fan. So a little rivalry going.
That's okay. I'm West Coast football. So again, we can talk all day about the Pac-10, the Pac-12, why they should have kept the conference together. But no, I'm fine with the Utah Utes, and actually have some friends that are Utes. So good to know, Zach. Thank you.
Yeah. But so I made an amazing career, 15 years as an athlete. Got to be number 1 in the world, overall world champion. Got to go to make 2 Olympic teams. Took 5th in the 2010 Olympics, which is my last competition I ever did. And then I became the U.S. coach for this team, the USA Skeleton team, and coached multiple athletes to Olympic medals, which was awesome, and really learned how to coach and how to get people to perform at a high level. So those 6 years as a coach were really big for me and my growth.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you're coaching somebody that's aiming for the Olympics now, aren't you?
I am, yeah. One of
Yeah.
my friends and athletes I coach, his name is Kwasi Frimpong, slides for Ghana. Amazing, amazing person, and so I'm still staying involved in the athletic world a little bit that way, but mostly in the professional world only now.
Yeah, and you do come for those listeners out there who understand that this is dental. You also work with oral surgeons. Going back to your coaching for just a second, not only are you coaching, but you're also out there speaking. You spoke to somebody from where something big the other day, and it's one thing after the next, and other things coming up. But what was it that you just spoke to students? Where was that?
I just spoke to a Utah Prep team. It's a basketball team. It has a couple future NBA players on there. Great, great group of kids. Hardworking. It was amazing to see these athletes at work. And I haven't been around a basketball a lot. I'm actually not so good at basketball, so I was really impressed at what these guys were doing.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, so we're gonna go so many directions I can already tell today. And Mike, you may have some preliminary questions, but I wonder if you would be willing to share a little bit of your actual story from childhood going into the Olympics. I know we don't have tons of time, but we probably should do a part one and part two on you. But I'd love, because you have such an unbelievable journey, and I think it's so applicable to all of us who are trying to build really big things, like really high level, things that we're trying to achieve. And you have done it. You're somebody who's been there, and you've created these Olympic principles that absolutely apply to dental or anything else where people are trying to achieve things. But I think the story is so interesting. Are you willing to share a little bit? And we'll
Yeah,
interrupt you throughout so that it's not just all you, but I would love it if you'll give us a glimpse, because anyone who Googles you, they're going to come across some interesting press, right? And what does
yeah.
that all mean? Yeah,
And
go
before,
ahead.
and before we go there, Zach, which again, I've read your story and I look forward to hearing it from your perspective. But I would really love to know is how you got into skeleton. I mean, as a young child in your family, so I'd like to even go a little bit further back. And I agree with you, Julianne. We're definitely going to have part two. But what inspired you to, one, get into a winter sport such as skeleton, which is very unique, and then take it to the next level? I have some old history in football and why I kind of went down that path, but I really want to know your path and why you went to a very specific Olympic sport and what motivated you as a young child. And then your rest of your story obviously is rocket ship from there. But tell me on early on what inspired you and who was an influence in your early childhood to not only get into sport, but that particular sport.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I grew up at a ski resort, Alta
Okay.
in Utah, where my mom owned the daycare and my dad was a deputy sheriff up there. And I literally grew up being at the ski resort all the time. Grew up skiing at age 3, and I was the kid that wanted to point it straight down the hill and go as fast as I could. Even at age 3, I was like doing my pizza, just going straight. They had to get me to turn more, but
Nice.
so I grew up on skis, grew up in the winter sports, and I also grew up watching the Olympics. My mom and I were huge fans of the Olympics, and we'd watch the summer and winter Olympics. Just everything we could, we would watch. And I always looked forward to seeing the Olympics. It was very inspiring for me as a kid. I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And watching the people and the Team USA march in the opening ceremonies into that stadium. And one day we were watching, I just watched like Carl Lewis just won a gold medal in the Summer Olympics. And I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, I want to be Olympian someday. And she looked at me matter of factly and she said, Well, you better get training. And that moment was pivotal for me because it was in that moment that I realized, well, my mom thinks that I can do it. Like she didn't say, oh, that's really hard or you can't do that. She said, well, if you want to do it, you better start working. And so I literally went into my backyard that day and I started running sprints on my lawn. I didn't know what I was training for. I just knew I had to start training because mom just told me I need to start training. And I was maybe like, I don't know, 8 years old, somewhere around there. And just that's literally how the dream became became a dream. That's where that it became like, okay, well, maybe I can do this. And
Yeah,
so I
so you
started,
had a very preliminary intuitive sort of draw to wanting to go after this dream, which is unique from some people who don't figure it out till later, right? They don't even know what they want, or they're pushed into something. But you kind of chose it, which is kind of special. That's kind of a cool,
yeah,
preliminary start, right?
you can always say, I guess I've had my head in the clouds a little bit. I've always been a big dreamer. I've always had big aspirations. I like to do things that are hard and do things that most people can't do. because I know that how exhilarating that is to do those hard things. And so, here I was like, okay, I am a skier. I'm going to go into ski racing. So I started doing some ski racing. I didn't like it. I didn't like sitting at the top of the hill waiting to chase some gates. I'm a huge fan of ski racing. Don't get me wrong. It's like, I think it's one of the hardest, greatest sports ever. It just wasn't right for me. I preferred being out free skiing, get some powder, moguls. And so I kind of went away from ski racing a little bit after doing it for a little while and thought, okay, well, maybe that's not my calling. And that's when they started building the track in Utah for the 2002 Olympics. And my dad actually kind of said, hey, they're building this amazing playground in our backyard. Why don't we go check it out? So we went up, drove up to Park City, saw this track, and it was just getting built then. And it was intimidating. It was scary. It's like these giant curves, concrete, going over the road, bridges. And I was like, I don't know, Dad, this looks a little crazy. He said, well, think about it. And I thought about it. I looked on, this is the early stages of internet. And I saw some horrific crashes. Of course, that's usually what's on the internet. And I was like, oh, I don't know, Dad. And so I told him, no thanks. I don't think it's right for me. And it was actually a little bit later. So he invited me. He said, I'm going to take you up to the Alpine Slide in Park City. And I said, awesome. I love the Alpine Slide. We never had a lot of money. I was excited to go because we didn't go very often. And instead of going to the Alpine Slide, we get up there. Instead of turning right, we turn left. And I'm like, where are we going? And he said, well, there's a national tryout for the luge team, and it was summertime. It was street luge, so where they have rollerblade wheels on the track, the sleds, and you go down the road, the canyon roads. And he said, I signed you up for this tryout. You can try it. If you want to do it, great. If you don't, we'll go do the Alpine Slide.
So he just signed you up without you. Like, I would panic if I was, a kid and somebody signed me up for something. And you were just like, okay, head first, let's go for it. Or what?
Well, this is luge, so this is feet first. And that's how I started out in luge. And so we get there, and I looked at it, and I saw these kids flying down this hill, and I was like, okay, that looks kind of fun. I was like, I'll try it out. So I do this tryout, and I loved it. I was having a blast. And it was a national tryout. Thousands of kids tried out, and they were choosing just a handful, I think it was a dozen, 15 kids to come back to Lake Placid, New York, and start training for the junior national team. And I got chosen. I thought it was a one-time thing. I thought I was going to try this out, have fun, and that would be the end of it. And years later, I actually ran into one of the coaches that chose me. And I asked him, I said, why did you choose me? And he said, well, the sleds are really heavy because they have rollerblade wheels. They're made of steel, wood. They're heavy. And you have to go carry them back to the top of the hill to go down the ramp and go back down the hill. He said, you were the only kid that was grabbing the sled, throw it on your back, and running back up to the top. So it was the effort. They liked the effort. And that was a good teaching thing for me too, or a good learning for me too.
And Zach, good to hear that because you hear so much about it. And I've coached on a little level, up to 8th grade football and some other things. But, you talk about effort and skill and, ability. And, I'll take kids sometimes, and I think this transitions into dentistry, that someone is willing to provide the effort. You can teach the skill, but effort is something that's built within. And this is a perfect parallel to dentistry and young dentists coming into the profession or them trying to fill their way with their team or staff. And also the story about your father as well, taking a risk, putting yourself out there. And I think as professionals in the dental space as well, we all need to put ourselves out there and take some risk and to try something different. And you never know, like you said, and that's a great analogy. You went left instead of right, and you went down the hill, and then the rest is history, as we say. And I think that's in our day-to-day lives, whether it's professionally or personally, sometimes it's just going down the hill. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I agree. And also the effort thing, we go back to this, you see this a lot now when people are trying to, hire people, and they're hiring when they hire off of, a resume with a long list of skills, but they don't hire off of, the preliminary, heart behind it, if you will, or that willingness to make the effort, then they end up, failing with that. And so I think there's so much to be said about you can train anything, right? For the most part, but you can't teach a person how to have that passion and, or how to show up and understand that wherever they go, there they are. And, everything you take with you everywhere is going to be reflective of that passion.
Well, and also, and especially when no one's looking, right? You weren't thinking about it. You just did it because that was how you're raised. That's how you were built internally. is you
Yeah.
gave effort in whatever you did, and especially when no one's looking. So yeah, from team members, dentists that work in organizations, DSOs and others, it's the times when you're doing the extra things that no one sees that really do make the difference. And to
100%
your
work.
point,
Yeah, work ethic and mindset are huge. It's
Yeah.
there's a lot of dentists out there, and there's a lot of competition. And to set
Mhm.
yourself apart, you really have to find those little things to set you apart. Effort and is one big thing, but also your mindset and how you go about it is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. So can you continue on? I want to definitely get into the story. So you end up getting picked, selected for this, right? And then what happened after that? So you go and you start training. And did you get separated from your family to do that? Because we have so many people where, they come into this industry and they're separated from their family young. And we see impacts on people from that, right? So I'm kind of curious, or did you get to stay at home and still go train? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I was 13 years old when I got
Mhm.
recruited. I was young, and I got a letter in the mail that said I get to go to Lake Placid, New York, and live at the Olympic Training Center, and live in dorms, have a cafeteria, be with other kids my age. And I thought I hit the lottery. I was like, wait, I get to go leave the house, go and I'm like, I looked at my parents. I'm like, do I really get to do this? They're like, yeah, if you want to do it, we'll support you. And I was on cloud nine. I was just ecstatic. Um, and unfortunately, literally a week from getting that news, my mom was diagnosed with skin cancer, malignant melanoma, and was only given 3 months to live. And
Wow.
so I actually had to turn down the opportunity, which was devastating. It was devastating, but it was also an easy decision because I wasn't going to leave and be away from my mom. And so I stuck by her, and she fought valiantly for almost 2 years before she finally lost her battle with cancer. And I was a
So
mama's boy. I mean, I was
not
a mom.
not to interject, but Mike, I don't know if you're willing to share, but you're going through a similar thing right now, literally. So the timing of
yeah,
this story is
yeah, exactly. If you see me tear up, I apologize. But yeah, my mom's battling melanoma right now in Southern Oregon and was diagnosed a little over around a year or so ago and is early stage hospice. So my heart goes out to you and your journey that went
I'm
through. And
sorry to hear
obviously, I'm
that.
going through that as well. But I agree. Family first, and you made the right choice because obviously that opportunity was there down the road, and I'm sure motivated you in your journey, in her memory, and what she gave to you as a child. So, but thank you for sharing it. We all, in any profession, any wake of life, we all go through all of this. But again, it's about the
Hmm.
time we are to spend with the loved ones, but then also how we take that and then move on to carry on their memory and to motivate us to greater things. But yeah, thank you, Zach, for sharing.
Well, and that's exactly what it was. It was grief has been one of the biggest motivators in my life. Grief is a strong thing, and when before my mom passed, I think she knew her time was limited. I was a young kid. I just kept holding out faith. I just kept holding out that she was going to pull through. I just, but she sat me down before when she was getting near the end of her time, and she made me make her a promise. And she said, I need you to promise me to always follow your dreams in life and to always go after big dreams. Dream big and go big. And do it in a way that'll make me proud. And, here I was 15 years old at the time. And I thought, okay, mom, sure,
Right.
I'll do that. Wasn't really thinking a whole lot of it at the time. But then after she passed, I was devastated. My world was turned upside down, and I was a little lost. And so I thought about the words she said, and it was to always follow my dreams. And I thought, okay, well, what are my dreams? It was easy. I've had two big dreams in my life: to be an Olympic athlete and to be a pilot. And today I've done both those things. And it was that promise to my mom that got me to those things, because for me, my way of dealing with grief was through sport, was through going after these things. It really helped me. So it really was hard to lose her at age 15, but it was also, she's been with me my whole journey. I know she's been with me. And so to have her in my corner through this whole thing was also huge.
Yeah, I love that. So I also lost a parent when I was young. I was 9 when I lost my father. And I feel the same thing. It's like I go back to this connection, right, that I had and that some of the lessons, foundational lessons that I learned from that. So I'm curious. So right away when I hear you've had these two big dreams and you've accomplished both of them. There's a couple things that come to mind. And I know you're not even done with your story, because there's some incredible challenges that you have overcome and dealt with, that most people on the planet would have thrown in the towel every time that they were faced with anything like this, and way less, in fact. But you had these two dreams: to be an Olympic athlete. You accomplished that. You had this dream to be a pilot. You've accomplished that. And right away, my curiosity goes to, and what is your dream now? Right. So whether it's now or before we end the show, let's revisit that. Okay. If you're open to it.
I love that question. So to be able to achieve such big accomplishments, the Olympics and pilot and other things I've done in life and professional, I know I wouldn't be able to accomplish things without coaches, without people there carrying me, helping me, holding me accountable, motivating me, inspiring me. In my story, there's been several instances where coaches were the reason I was able to get through things. You talk about going through some hard things. I went through some hard stuff, and I didn't do that alone. And so I am so grateful that I was able to have those people in my life, and they helped me so much that when I've got out of sport, now that I'm going into it and I'm a coach myself, that's when I knew that was my calling, because I want to do what people they did for me. I want to help others get through the hard times. I want to help people inspire others and help them live their fullest life, because I wouldn't be able to do it without coaches myself. So that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Zach, on that as well. I've always been that and gravitated towards coaching, even when I was in various positions, right, or as a leader, just because, again, it was something that I really enjoyed, other people's success. And it's not mutually exclusive to your own success. And that's what I teach and coach on now. It doesn't have to be a transactional, you win, I lose, you lose, I win. No, we can all elevate and we can all do better and be better. And I am inspired by, coaches when I was a youth, or teachers, or even today, surgeons and doctors that we work with that have inspired others and have been influential in others' lives, can inspire us on a daily basis as well. So I love success. I love people that have stories that go over and above to achieve their success and deal with adversity. And that's why, all of us on here are coaches and trainers. And I do think it's so needed, because you don't have to do it by yourself. You can get help, and it's okay to get help, and it's also okay to elevate those around you, and not just you be at the top of the mountain. You can bring yourself up and others with you.
I'm going to go so far as to say that if somebody wants to hire the three of us, that we will collaborate and be your coaching team. But we'll come back to that. We'll come up with a great offer on that, because you would have an Olympic athlete, an influence coach, and then somebody who is phenomenal with understanding the corporate side of collaboration and KOL development and all of that as well. So you would be really in great hands if somebody is really looking to implement that. I'm going to put it out there right now, because we already know you're on our coaching team. We know you're going to be speaking at ADI this year. For those of you.
Speaking of ADI, Julieanne, this is a perfect time to thank our friends at ADI for sponsoring our podcast.
We are in collaboration with American Dental Institute. They put on their event every year. This will air before that event, which is ADI2025.com. You have to get tickets to that. It's so inexpensive. You get 2 days of stellar speakers from the industry, but Zach has been invited to speak this year. So he'll be our one non-dental professional, but you're still a dental professional. You're still in the dental space working with oral surgeons, but you won't be, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company necessarily, but you are the Olympic athlete. And so you are going to be such an amazing variety, add that variety, and it's going to be so much fun, because you're an awesome
elaborate on that. So my day job for the last 5 years is I'm a medical device rep for Stryker, and I work in the CMF space. So craniomaxillofacial, I do orthodontic surgery, work with a lot of oral surgeons, ENT, all kinds of specialties. So yeah, I've been in the industry for 5.5 years now.
Well, and I'll add to that. So, it's interesting, because sometimes I think that reps get, sort of a bad, rap. People don't understand that, Mike comes out of being a rep, and then he moved up into corporate and worked in training, education, did all of that stuff. But what people don't know is that you're coaching these surgeons. And so it's like, yes, you have this position where you're working in the corporate arena, but it gives you access, and you're able then to coach these oral surgeons who so desperately are in need of that type of somebody coming from even this other world outside of the industry, who can give these tips too, right? And
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
one of the
awesome.
biggest reasons I got into coaching more and more is because being in the OR and talking to the surgeons during the surgeries, you get to know them quite well. And I realized that, man, they had the same struggles as anyone else, as all of us, right? And in order for them to do their job well, the job of a coach is to eliminate barriers for people so that they can succeed and so they can thrive. And everyone needs that. When I was coaching Olympic athletes, it wasn't like I was giving them this, like, some of the smallest things I did were some of the biggest things I did for them. There was days they had a race the next day. They had laundry that needed to be done. I was like, I'll go do your laundry. Like, you focus on the race. Like,
That is whatever it takes, right, Zach? I mean, I get it. Whatever it takes to get the job done, and athletes get it done. If you have to help them on with their laundry, or giving them a good meal, or giving them a ride so they can get on the court or on the field or on the track, then so be it. So I get it.
yeah, it's just
Coaches have done
eliminate
so much
barriers.
more to eliminate.
As
Yeah.
as your coach, Zach, here's the thing though, is we're gonna outsource that piece, okay? So not to worry, you'll still get your laundry done. It is a bonus we're adding to only today. Okay, only if you reach out to influentialdentist@gmail.com today and ask for us as a group to coach you, then you will get your laundry done, but we're outsourcing it. All right,
Just
done.
know I'm the guy that throws the whites in with the colors, so you might not want it.
Back to you. So where we left off is your mother passed, right? And then you kind of got lost, right, in your story, and you got lost with having felt this grief, right? Which also, just fast forward to, you do all this work helping people with grief counseling, which is just a side note if somebody is going through that. But take us back to, when you're feeling this lost thing, and then you're rediscovering that, hey, your mom said, go after big dreams, like don't drop the ball with big dreams, make me proud. How did that message come back and motivate you?
Yeah. So I told my dad, I said, hey, can we call the Luge Association and ask them if I can still go? And so we did. The track.
But this is years later, right?
This is 2 years later. Yeah.
Okay.
So way past. They like to develop you when you're young. I was a little past that, but they said, hey, the track in Utah is done. Go check it out. So I went up and I started doing it and I got hooked. I loved it. I loved the sport. It's a hard sport. It was fun. It was challenging. And it was a good distraction for me. It was a good thing for to help me deal with my grief. And I got hooked and started doing it. I did really well. I did really well as a junior luge athlete. And then I got cut. I got cut from the team. At age 18, they said, hey, look, you started years later after we wanted you to start. And mind you, I was the third ranked junior in the nation when I got cut. But they said, with where your age is, with where your development is, we just feel like we need to move on. And talk about insert one of the most influential coaches in my life. One of my coaches, Wendell Suko, he was an Olympian in luge. He came to me and said, hey, I don't think these guys know what they're talking about. I believe in you. I see you have what it takes. Don't quit. If he didn't do that, I would have never become Olympian. That was a pivotal moment with that one coach believed in me.
I have like chills right now and I want to cry. I'm not even kidding. I mean, so think about this. How many times do people get lost because nobody saw something in them and expressed it? They may even have seen something, but we don't speak up and help people. Like I'm so touched by that. And I'm so thankful to this human that they came back.
Yeah.
We're all going to be bawling today, right? Like we're coffee, but no tissue. Go on.
That goes to your point, Julieanne, in professional life, and again, especially in dentistry, where we're dealing with obviously a lot of turnover in the industry with teams and staff, and dentists and doctors' own worth on what they want to do. Literally, one simple word or compliment or encouragement by a peer to a peer, or a peer to a team member, whether you're at a conference or anything else. And we know, and we've been touched by this on colleagues in the industry with higher incidence of mental depression, suicide rates, and everything else. If someone would speak out and acknowledge their greatness, whatever that is, hey, doc, you should go and be a perio and not just be, or you should go into that course. But say something positive, do something positive, because you never know what they'll have an influence on. Just like Zach said, I had a similar story when I was in ninth grade, the same sort of thing. I was doing whatever, and he's like, look, you have the size, whatever, you can do what you want to do, but you have to get your butt in gear. And I took it to heart, and that was something pivotal that I remember 30 some years later. So words do matter, and being influential with those words matter and go a long ways. So.
Yeah, and a personal note on that. Let me get really personal for a second. So, Mike, You're an example of this because you approached me to go into business together. And honest to God, I don't know what I'd be doing right now had you not done that. And we've formed this company and we've done these incredible things already. And we motivate each other literally every day. And I swear it's only because you saw something in me that you wanted. And then I saw it in you that we're able to do that together. Right. And then same with you, Zach. We're all collaborating now. And it's like, so it doesn't matter who you are. If you see the potential in somebody else, what happens if they know it is they rise to the occasion, right? And so, and then they exceed your expectations, right? So it's really an impactful story. Just that piece, if that's all that anyone took out of this today,
Right.
then it would be worth it, right? But there's so much more.
Right, and even if you don't know, you do the right thing, say the right thing. You may never see that person ever. And I talk about coaching kids that are 7th and 8th grade. I don't know what half of them are doing, but you know what? If I put them in the right direction and they're successful now or they're leading a better life because of that, that's great. I don't need to have that affirmation or know that. But the fact is, you should do right, be right, and speak up, and good things will come around, like these collaborations, these relationships were amazing. But it will leave the world a better place, period. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And that's what we try to say through our podcast and our day-to-day lives, and what you're doing, Zach, as well. So obviously you're making a huge influence and impact.
And are you still in touch with that coach, out of curiosity?
Not close contact, but in contact, yes.
Yeah, but that's to your point, right, Mike, is that you may not know the impact you've had on somebody's life, whether you talk to them again or not. And we know that there are studies that are coming out about how you can save lives. Literally, if a teenage kid, for example, knows that just one adult cares about them, it could potentially prevent them from committing suicide. And so we know that there are statistics that are so profound about somebody, anybody caring about somebody else and seeing potential in them.
Right. And I'm sure this happened in dental schools and in offices and stuff, and going back to the dental profession, but I guarantee it's happened with youth. And when you're coaching young men and women, it does make a difference. I have kids say I would drop out of school if it wasn't for me to be on the football field or coaching, put an interest in me. And that goes with kids and or adults. So again, we're all human and we all need that, a positiveness and that encouragement to succeed.
And we all need it at any level. It doesn't matter what success you've had in life. Everyone needs it. I have 3 Olympic teammates that have committed suicide, which is, it's hard to believe that you have Olympic gold medalists that feels like they're not worthy or they're not, and it's, when you put all your worth on your profession, on your thing, that's sometimes can be dangerous. And as athletes, as Olympic athletes, sometimes your identity is sport. Sometimes a dentist's identity might be being a dentist. And it's so important. Yeah. And so it's so important to have a balanced, holistic approach to who you are. You're more than what you will do.
Yeah, and I'll give you I just want to insert one quick comment about that. So this is not everybody, right? Nothing that we say is about everybody, right?
Yeah.
But so we generalize at times, but this is very much the case in the dental industry, where we see that people are tied so much to their profession and their title. And what so much so that when they go into retirement, I have had people come to me for coaching who literally don't want to let go of their license, and they're retired. And they're coming to me for post-retirement coaching. And I'm like, why won't you let go of your license? And they won't let go of it because their identity is so tightly tied to it that they don't know what they do if they couldn't say that they had it. And I'm like, you are a dentist. It doesn't matter. But it's incredible what we hold on to from our past and from, the stuff that we think it makes us who we are, which is not at all what makes us who we are.
Yeah.
So continue. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I couldn't help it.
I forgot where I was going with that.
Anyway, I'm terrible.
He told me to go find another way. He said, there's other ways. Go try bobsled or go try skeleton. And so I went and did some bobsled driving. I actually won 2 junior races. Did well at it. Didn't enjoy it at all. It was like taking a bus down the track after I'd been taking a Ferrari down the track, because they steer completely different. They're different feel. Just wasn't right for me. Nothing against bobsled. Great sport. And so that's when I thought about trying skeleton. But, skeleton and luge is like skiing to snowboarding. You talk to a skier, they're like, oh, snowboarding sucks. Snowboarding's like, oh, skiing sucks. Like, you have I always thought I looked down on this sport of skeleton because I was a luge athlete, right? And then I tried it. And, oh, man, going head first down that track was exhilarating. And because of my experience of doing luge, it transferred over quickly. And the sport just was a natural fit for me. And I loved it. It made me feel alive. It literally, if you could imagine what it feels like to fly, this is about as close to feeling as you can get. Other than jumping out of a plane and doing that, it's really close feeling. It's amazing.
That's incredible. So then moving forward, you did very well, obviously. We know that you became a champion at the sport. So tell us about some of those wins and where you started to, kind of run into obstacles in your career. Because right now at this point, you're going with the intention that you're going to go into the Olympics, correct?
Yeah. So then
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is it. This is my calling. Everything was given to me that I needed, and I knew my path to my dream. And so once I had that, there was no stopping me. I was unwavering commitment to getting there. I almost got there quite quickly. Was in line to get for the 2002 team in Salt Lake City, in my hometown. Um, I was doing quite well. I was really almost unbeatable at that track in Park City because I had so many runs on it. And a week before the Olympic trials, I was in a major car accident, hit and run, totaled my car, threw my back out. I have scoliosis, so I have a little bit of bad back already, and threw it out, threw me off mentally. And I missed that team. I missed that team in my home Olympics. And that was hard. That was hard, but it was actually one of the better things that happened to me because I went to the race, I saw my teammates win medals, and I was like, okay, there's nothing that's going to stop me from getting there. And I put down a game plan. I said, in 4 years, if I do these things, and I laid it out, a really clear plan. If I do these things, I am not only going to be on the Olympic team, but I'm going to be a gold medalist. I knew it. And so I put down these goals to it and worked on it. And I moved to live with a trainer. I mean, I committed everything to this dream. Um, and fast forward a few years later, here I am going into 2006, the next Olympics. And guess who's number one in the world? Guess who's the gold medal favorite going to the Olympics?
It's
I
you.
was living exactly what I manifested exactly yeah. And it was amazing. It was right before Christmas, and the Olympics were in February, and I got a phone call, and I was in Segulda, Latvia, of all places, and it was from my CEO, and he said, "Zach, are you sitting down? We need to talk." And he proceeded to tell me that I had a positive doping violation, which for me, I was like, I thought I was getting punked. I thought my teammates were messing with me. We always played practical jokes on each other. But I quickly realized that he was very serious and that I had an inadvertent positive doping violation. For 6 years, I was taking Propecia, which is an anti-balding medication. Obviously, it didn't work too well, but I was taking it, and the fifth year of that 6 years, they added it to the ban list. So it was legal for 5 years. And so after checking for 5 years, I just didn't check that year because I just assumed it was going to be legal again. Know that it all of a sudden be added to the ban list after it had been legal. So and on the doping, on the drug form that I did when I did the test, I actually wrote, I'm taking this medication. I was hiding nothing. Long story short, I was removed from the team. I had to fight, get a lawyer, had to fight for my name, and was able to win. I won. The U.S. Anti-Doping Agency and the U.S. Olympic Committee both agreed that I made an honest mistake, and they put me back on the Olympic team. Flew over, was in Torino, was at the Olympic Village, had my gear, living in the village, living my dream, and I found out that it had gotten political, and my decision was being appealed. And I had to go to court the day before opening ceremonies to a special arbitration, present my case. Went great. The court agreed. I was an honest athlete, but they said they had to punish me anyway, that I made an honest mistake. And I was told I had to be out of the Olympic Village 2 hours before opening ceremonies. I went from being number one in the world, gold medal favorite, to being on the street, living with my lawyer. And that was a hard time in my life, to say the least.
I again have chills and I know this story, Zach. And so this is why, you have so much power in sharing your story because how many times have we felt a blow like this in our lives, right? And I don't know that I could even relate to what level that would, impact you on. But what went through your head? Like in that moment where they're like, you literally had to pack your bag. You weren't allowed to walk out, right? Like you had to leave.
I literally had to leave. They cut my credential. And the worst part of this whole thing was I had to walk past the U.S. delegation who were congregating to go walk in opening ceremonies. So my biggest dream in my entire life, I had to literally like roll my bags past the entire U.S. team on my way out and yeah, it was devastating. It was other than losing my mom, it's the first time I had depression and was in a dark place. And I didn't watch much of that really any of that Olympics. And I got in a dark place, and that's when I realized, I need to come out and show that who I am. I need to show what I'm capable, and that's not who I am. So the next year I came out, and not only I was the number one slider again in the world, number one overall World Cup champion, but in Torino on that track, we had a World Cup a year to the day from the Olympics. And not only did I win the race, but I set the track record. No one had ever gone faster. So for me, it was like a way to show what I was capable of, but it wasn't the Olympics. It was a World Cup.
Okay, so I have a question on that. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's so fast, right? Like you're sharing that basically went from deep, dark depression to winning again. I'm curious in between, like, where was it? Was it in a moment of decision that you just made up your mind or did you have to get therapy to do this? I mean, how fast can somebody make a decision to change their life and actually implement on that?
In that one, it was having a tight, good circle of people around me that helped me and supported me and knew who I was and knew that I was an honest person. And I was able to get through that on my own. Like that was just me showing that what I'm capable of and I still had passion and love for the sport and for what I was doing. But the year after that, they actually took Propecia back off the ban list. It's legal today. It doesn't even do anything, which we presented and proved in my case. They said, we're not here for the science. We're here because you have a positive doping violation. So a year and a half later, when they took it off the ban list and I realized I missed that Olympic dream and that opportunity for nothing, that was a hard thing to overcome. That was when I really got down. I lost my passion. I lost my love for the sport. I became a victim. I became a victim. And that's when I knew I needed help. And that's when I reached out and found one of my biggest mentors, Kevin Hall, who was my coach at the time. And he helped me with my mindset. I had sports psychologists that helped me with sport and things like that. But he helped me with that mindset of going from being the victim mentality to the victor and being a champion. The champion's mindset is what we call it. And that's when I literally embodied the idea of being a phoenix and rising out of the ashes and overcome and out of adversity. And that was a pivotal moment for me to have. Again, here's a pivotal time in my life that without that coach, without that mentor person to help me, I might not have got through it. And so
yeah, and that symbol. Okay, so one of the things that we talk about a lot is symbols, like things that can remind us, right, of what we're capable of, and how important that can be sometimes in your surroundings, in your settings. But that particular symbol, is it not in your yard? Like, don't you have a statue? Like, no, tell everybody, because this is a kind of like just a side note, because when you know too much about somebody, right? So share what your home is like. Can people see this?
So I have it tattooed on me, which is a big thing.
Okay.
I named my youngest daughter Phoenix. And my business, Olympic Life, the emblem is a phoenix. In my front yard, it's a giant eagle. That's a giant wood sculpture eagle that is symbolic of kind of the same thing.
Well, that's a great reminder. I mean, obviously on your day-to-day life and what you had to overcome. And if obviously if you can do it, Zach, we can do it. I can do it. Dentists in their day-to-day life, dental professionals in their daily life can do it. I mean, as an Olympic athlete, there's only the smallest percentage that have ever gone there, and you've gone there and then came back and got to the highest level. So, yeah, I'm amazed by that story. And I think that's a great reminder that a lot of bad things can happen in our personal and daily work lives. But at the end of the day, it's our own responsibility to pull our bootstraps up and get after it and to find those that can help us achieve it and to be that influential person as well, to pay it forward.
Yeah.
So,
and my mentor helped me that. And the people around me, my inner circle, helped me do that. And fast forward 2010, I get to the Olympics. I make the Olympic team again. I'm not number one in the world at this year point. I'm 13th in the world. I'm struggling. I've had a couple crashes. I needed my neck to be fused. Had a lot of injuries, but I made it, and I got there, and I got to compete, and ultimately ended up taking 5th place in the 2010 Olympics. Just missed an Olympic medal by half a second. For how long it takes me to snap is how much I missed an Olympic medal by.
That's incredible. So that's how tight it is in the timing, and that's it's such a beautiful, miraculous, amazing story. And how many times you were, knocked off your pedestal, right at the brink of being somebody so important in the world, and having hit these pinnacles of success, and yet you didn't stop. Even when you got into a dark place, you still kept coming back. It's such a an indicator of what the human spirit is capable of, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
some people they go through thing after thing after thing, right? And some of us, it's much more minor than this, while we still take it to heart as though it's so big, right? But to hear your story is such a huge inspiration. I know it's an inspiration to our listeners. It's such a huge inspiration to me. And I really appreciate you sharing it. Mike, you haven't heard this story before. What's your feeling on this?
No, I mean, I'm a whirlwind of emotions. One, I've never gotten to the level of you, Zach, but again, I played collegiate football, and as a child had dreams of playing the NFL, and because of my own abilities and injuries and stuff, I didn't get there, and probably didn't have the mental fortitude either. Let's be honest. But the fact is, I could have quit as a junior high or high school or even college. And again, you did it as well. You just kept going and going and going. So it hits me personally on so many levels, but definitely in our space now that we're in dental, where, like you said, Julieanne, this is a great reminder that whether it's big or small challenges, we're all going to have challenges and ups and downs, and don't make it be your last obstacle or your last issue. Overcome those and find those around you to help elevate you. I just had another question on that. So you did all this work, you kept coming back. You're half a second from a medal. How are you feeling? Because again, I talk with other athletes. They may say, that's good, or it wasn't enough. I mean, does that still fuel you today? Because you could have been a gold medalist at the Torino Olympics. You had the times and so on. But were you satisfied? Are you satisfied? And how do you feel about that accomplishment with your final Olympics?
Great question.
100%. I am so grateful for my journey. I would not give it up. I would not go back and have an Olympic medal right now and give up my journey, because all those hard things I went through, those are what shaped and made me who I am. It's the hardest things I went through that were the greatest teachers for me. And so I feel grateful that I got to grow and learn and become stronger because of them. And I'm so proud of my 5th place. There's
Good. You should be, Zach, and I agree with you. And we're all proud of you, and I'm proud of you. Like I said, and that's amazing. And I'm glad you said that for our listeners and everyone else. Your own personal journey and your own success is your own personal journey, your own success, right? And a piece
Yeah.
of metal or a ribbon or another accolade on your wall as a dentist or this and that's not going to define who you are as in the time you spent in it and the person you are today. So thank you, and you are 100% right.
As a person, yeah. And back to something else you said, like you were a college athlete, you were a college football player, you're coaching, you're doing big things. Like, I think this is one of the biggest things I've learned of being in the OR working with oral surgeons is I see high achieving, high level people that are doing things at Olympic level. Now, they
Mm-hmm.
might not be doing a sport, and the Olympics are sport, but they're doing surgery. And I know surgeons, they're badasses. They're really good at
Yeah.
what they do, and they're doing it at an Olympic level. And that's where the Olympic life came about. My company is about helping people live their life in whatever they do at an Olympic level. Because what makes an Olympian, what make the ideals and the principles, those aren't just for sport. Those are for you and for you and for everyone listening. We can all live our lives at that level. And so that's what I want people to realize is I do know Olympians. I do know Olympians that are not athletes, because they're what they do and how they do it at that level. And I admire it.
I love that. And I would even go so far as to say, Mike, you're an example of this on so many levels. Like, Zach just said you played college, football, et cetera, et cetera. You minimize it so much, right? Like you come from such a humble place, and, and you minimize what you've achieved in every area of your life. And I think all of us, could learn to also go ahead and feel good about those accomplishments and understand that what Zach is saying is right. We still show up. like those athletes or like the Olympian, and or we have the capability and the potential, even though we don't see it as some big huge, mighty achievement. And I think the problem is we have so much negative self-talk, and we get down on ourselves because it doesn't look like an Olympic gold medal. I loved hearing you say that you love your fifth place, that you're proud of your fifth place. Like, that is so inspiring to me, right? It's so human. And I have a story too. I had a situation where my dream when I was younger was to be a model. And I went to, all these big modeling agencies, and they told me I was starting too late, that they developed their people way younger. And I was totally defeated and completely saddened by all of that. And I literally went for years without doing anything because of it, and then went back in my 20s and lied about my age because I was like, no, I can do this. And I got multiple modeling agencies and did things that most people will never do in their modeling career, and had the most incredible times and travel and opportunities that I could ever dream of. But it was only because I got so mad and fired up about it that I went and I said, no, I'm going to go in with a different approach. And I'm not saying that I recommend anybody go out there and do what I did, but I'm going to tell you that it showed me that you're capable of doing things. And if you know you're capable, then why are you letting anything stop you that doesn't make any sense? That's not really has nothing to do with what you're trying to accomplish. And yet we allow ourselves to be influenced by that dialogue.
And you can't manifest it unless you believe it yourself, right? Like if you don't believe it yourself, you can't manifest that.
Exactly.
Well, that's why it starts with that individual or that dentist or that team lead or whatever else. So you cannot espouse your team to have their stuff together if you don't have your own stuff together, right? Or if you're not on the right mindset. I do the adage: if you're playing an auction and it comes down, what do you put it on? You put it on yourself first before you help others. So, it's about achieving. It's about the mindset. And I agree with you, Julieanne, what you said about the Olympic mindset. The medal is the medal. It's the journey is what gets you that. And that's with any sport or any career, right? It's the journey. It's the friendships you made along the way. Is the lessons learned. How you are now with your family and your friends and your career now. And that's what's important. And one last thing, celebrate those small victories. And I'm sure you did as an athlete, and I'm sure dentists and team members do as well. Celebrate you getting a personal record. Celebrate you hitting a monetary goal in your practice or whatever it is. Those are as important as the final, end of year goals or that Olympic medal, right? Celebrate all those victories along the way, because those do add up and contribute to your overall mind success as well as your overall success.
Yeah. So Zach, I have to ask you a couple things. I know we're out of time. I completely acknowledge that. We are going to have you back on, but I know more about you with respect to some of your Olympic principles that you're teaching than people realize probably. And I implement them in my own life. I literally take some of what you have been working on with me, and I literally go back to them as foundational principles. And so do you mind sharing even just a couple of those principles that you sort of have designed into your coaching program, just so people kind of get an idea of how does this apply to them, right? And it can be very, and one of the things I just want to note on and make a note of, it's what Mike was saying there, is that, one of the things that had an impact on me with you was that you said, do you think that I would have spent my whole career for that 5 seconds or 2 seconds or whatever it was of getting that, going down the track? Or do you think it's more important that my life is about the journey? Right. Yeah. And so that ties into one of your principles. And that really hit me, because I'm like, it's not about the win. It's not. Yes, the win is there. It is a guiding force. But can you talk about that just a little bit before we wrap up?
Yeah. So, one of my principles is going headfirst in life. And that's living fearlessly. That's not letting fear run the show. That's taking chances. That's getting out of our comfort zone. That's literally, my sport was crazy, but that was me going headfirst into life. And that mindset of people taking risks, people putting their neck on the line. And there's no such thing as failure. There's only growth. You can, if you grow from something, you're not going to fail. And so I love getting people out of their comfort zone. And that's something that's another one is accelerate through the curves. Life gives us a lot of curves. And in my sport, I made a living of going into a curve and trying to come out faster, learn steering, figuring out a way to come out faster. I had a game plan going into every curve. Very rarely did I ever get into that curve according to my game plan. So it's all about adapting. It's all about pivoting. It's all about working with what you're given and making the most out of it and keep that momentum going. Keep that momentum going in sport and in life. And another one, like you said, is enjoy the journey. I mean, if I based everything on competing in the Olympics, which was what my main goal was, that means I spent 15 years of my life for 4 minutes. And what I experienced and accomplished in that 15 years was way bigger than 4 minutes. And so it put a lot of perspective. I'm like, okay, yes, that was my goal, but all this, the traveling the world, getting to do World Cup events, getting to do the Olympics, getting to do all these things, meeting amazing people. That's what it was about. Kind of like you said, Mike, it's so much more about the journey. And so I always ask people that I work with to not lose sight. Yes, it's great to be ambitious. It's great to have goals. It's great to try to achieve big things in life, but don't do it at the price of forgetting to enjoy the journey and the moment and being present in everything you do every day.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for that. So, Zach, it would be great so for the listeners out there, if anybody is, putting on events or looking for speakers, Zach is available. I'm going to just pimp you out right now because that's what I do. And he is very expensive. His honorarium is way too high. But if you talk to me, I'll get you a deal. But the truth is, you really are going out there and you're on the speaking circuit for very obvious reasons. This show, I know, is going to have an impact on people's lives. And so if somebody is looking for a speaker, how can they find you if they want to reach out and ask you to come be a part of their event in the dental space or any other space for that matter, even if it's, in a community group or somebody that needs inspiration and needs to help youth for that matter, or in grief counseling or anything, but especially in this space because it's so needed. How can they reach you?
Yeah, I'm pretty old school. I use email.
It works very well still in
Right?
this industry.
I love to have conversations with people and see what they need and what they're, because the one thing I learned in coaching is everyone needs something different. Everyone, to get them to where they need to go, is not the same for someone else. And so reach out to me. My email is Zach J Lund, ZACHJLUND @gmail.com. And I would love to talk and see how I could help.
Yeah, I love it. You're going to get inundated with emails, I have no doubt. But thank you so very much for being on our show today. It really is touching. And I don't think your story will ever get old, or I will ever not be moved by hearing what you've been through and what you've overcome and how you have mustered it to move forward. Also, I'm kind of curious if, and I have some insight, but if you could leave everybody with what's next for you, is there anything that people should know about this next, game plan that you have?
Yeah. So right now I'm currently writing my book. So it's called Phoenix Rising, the 5 Principles to Living an Olympic Level Life. So that's the big thing going on for me right now, is writing that and doing the coaching and speaking. So it's going full steam with all that, and it's going amazing, and just feel so grateful to help others, to have the opportunity to help others achieve their full potential.
Nice.
Yeah.
And maybe people can ask to opt into your email list when they reach out to you, just so that they can get that book when it comes out, and they can be part of your launch team when that book is going to be released.
Well, and I definitely want a book, Zach, and I would love to have it signed by you as well, because I look forward to learning and meeting you in person and continuing our relationship. And we'll make sure we'll share the book information as well. But I want to thank American Dental Institute. Sorry, I'm all caught up in this moment. So American Dental Institute for everything they've done to get this podcast on here. And then Zach, thank you very much for your time. And again, look forward to seeing you at the ADI 2025 event and having you back on, because I really want to dig deep into some of these principles and others that we can share with our listeners and can share with myself. So.
Yeah, awesome. And you can find Mike and me on social media at Influential Dental. So feel free to follow us on Insta or wherever you, consume your social media. And again, Zach, thank you so much for being a friend and for being on our show today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach.